Hello, Throttle-On John here, doing an oil change on a 2019 Plus RAV4. You just need, I think, around 4.8 quarts of oil, so I have 5. I'm using the 016 that Toyota recommends. You could use your own brand of 016 if you prefer. I like to use synthetic. We have the oil filter here, a 90915 YZZ-N1. You can use a good quality oil filter, either a Toyota or Napa Gold filters are good. Have a Toyota crush washer. Need a 14 millimeter for the drain plug and a 10 millimeter to remove the little skid plate door access for the drain plug and the oil filter. You need a ratchet. You can use an extension, not necessary. Have something to remove the oil filter. I like using the end cap filter removal tool. It's easy, but you could use one that will grab onto the sides just as easily. There's plenty of room in there. I like to use a Milwaukee ratchet to run some of these things out quicker, but not necessary. A hand ratchet works fine. And that's pretty much what we need, other than a oil drain pan. So let's go ahead and get started. I pulled on ramps today just really for the sake of this video. I've rarely used ramps for changing the RAV4 oil because there's plenty of clearance under here without ramps. It's just a little tighter squeeze under there, but if you want to use ramps, you can, but you don't have to. Next, let's go ahead and pop the latch to release the hood. So come in here, easy to do. You have your gas here, you have your hood pop latch right there. Go ahead and pull that. Now it's just a matter of coming basically just off center of the hood, finding the latch, sliding it sideways, and up it comes. So there's what that latch looks like, and it pulls just to the side. Then there's your prop, hood prop. I like the way they put it on the hood instead of from the bottom, and then that'll just kind of go down and attach where the hood prop latch goes. Here's the hood prop in place. You can see there's a nice little place for this to fit. Just nice Toyota quality. How often should you change your oil? Toyota recommends every 5,000 miles to 6 months. So I'm going to stick with those recommendations, and as well as the weight oil they recommend. I'm definitely not smarter than Toyota engineers, so I'm going to stick with what they recommend. A flow tool pan to catch things that don't get in the actual drain pan is helpful. So this is a good configuration to contain oil spills. Going back to what I was talking about earlier about oil changes on a Toyota. Toyotas are great cars, man. You can put, one of the few cars, you can put 300,000+ miles on them if you maintain them. You can easily do that. I use this car to commute to work. In a few years, I'll be passing on to one of my daughters. I have 3 girls, so if you take care of these cars, they will run and run and run. And I think most people who buy Toyota understand that. So this is an easy thing to do yourself. Toyotas are so easy to service, there's really no reason not to. So next, let's go ahead and remove the access door It also doesn't hurt to have one of these kneeling pads. It could be a gardening kneeling pad, a mechanic's kneeling pad, anything will work. That way when you're kneeling down to work on your car, it just isn't so hard on your knees. So we'll go ahead and get underneath the car. Got my pan in place. And you can easily see this big access panel that'll get us to the oil filter and the drain plug on the bottom of the motor. So we'll remove those screws. I can see some here. Looks like there's 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the back. So let's go ahead and remove those. That looks like it's taking a 10 millimeter socket. I'll be using this electric Milwaukee ratchet, 3/8 drive, but you can use hand tools, work just fine. This just makes it a little quicker. I never run, although I'll remove things with this, I won't put them back in with this. So just a little tip there. There's one. There's 2. Here's 3. And then I'll go ahead and remove this very last one. Toyota vehicles could not be easier to work on. They're just awesome. So here's the drain plug here, no leaks around it, looks good. And then there's the oil filter, so easy to get at. I mean, just awesome. And another thing I like about Toyotas is it's rare that I have an oil leak under here. You can see everything looks great. This car has about 12,000 miles on it. There's no leaks. You know, we can come over here and inspect the CV boots. They look good. We could look at the other side. You can look at the exhaust, just kind of look around, look for anything unusual. This car is so easy to maintain. So I love Toyotas for that reason. I have other vehicles, and once in a while I'll get under there and there's a new oil leak, and then you got to deal with that, whether it's warranty item or not. Toyotas just, it's very infrequent that I have that issue. So let's go ahead and remove the drain plug, and then I'll probably pull this oil filter as well. We'll go ahead and do that now. So we have our 14 millimeter socket on here, and we're just going to break that loose and let that oil drain out. You can keep a little upwards tension on that plug so it doesn't puke out all over you, and there you go. I did drive this car a little bit this morning, so you can do that to get some of the oil warm, but if you do that, just make sure you don't burn yourself. I am wearing gloves. It's just nice to wear gloves, so that I just get these at Costco so you don't get oil on your hands, but not completely necessary, but you don't want the oil really absorbing into your skin and your body. Notice that when I took my plug out, the first thing I did is looked at my drain plug to see if the washer was on there. There's no washer. Look up there. There it is. Now, about every other time I changed the washer, drain washer out, drain plug washer. This one looks good, but it's never a wrong thing to change it. All I'd have to do is take my fingernail and kind of pick that off. I'd be careful about using a screwdriver or something sharp. You don't want to mar the sealing surface. Maybe even a plastic trim tool could work, but be real careful about taking metal against metal. You can scratch things, and I won't want to seal as well. But in this case, that washer looks like perfect. I'm going to go ahead and reuse it. But for instructional purposes, changing out that washer is never a wrong choice. Let's go ahead and loosen up this oil filter. Got my wrench on the end, and couldn't be easier. Just a few turns, there it is, it's loose. And then we'll go ahead and spin this off, and there's more oil going into our pan. And then when I take this oil filter off, I'm going to turn it up, bottoms up, so I don't keep more oil than necessary. So when I pulled this off, I kept it up, because if I turn it upside down, see, oil dumps out, and I didn't want to dump oil on myself or somewhere else that I didn't mean to. So I'll hold that up and dispose of it in the appropriate place. While that oil was draining, I took a clean rag and wiped around this filter surface up here, and always make sure it's clean, and just made sure that that was looking good. And now it's ready to have the new filter installed. Take a moment to put a bead of oil around, new fresh motor oil around this sealing surface here. It's not hard to do, and just takes a second. Doesn't take a lot, just a little bit. Just kind of put it around there, and now it's ready to go on the motor. We're now going to install the new filter on. Always take a quick check on your mating surface of your motor to your filter to make sure there isn't a gasket left on there. We don't want to double gasket that. That'd create a leak. So now we're going to put this filter on. Always start your oil filter by hand. You don't want to cross thread something. Toyota instructions say to go once this touches. So here it is, just touching the mating surface. It says to go another 3/4 turn. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. You can do that by keeping track of the writing here. I was down. Okay, there it's just touching. Now we're going to go another 3/4 turn. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Okay, there the filter is installed. A 3/4 turn past where it first hit the mating surface. The Toyota emblem was here. Now it's about right up on this side over here. And it feels snug. That should be about as tight as you want to get it by hand. Don't use a wrench on there to tighten it. You'll have a terrible time getting it off next time. Okay, now let's go ahead and reinstall our plug. Once we'll let that drain a little more. Then we'll fill with fresh motor oil. Of course, don't start your motor now. You don't have any motor oil in your engine, it will self-destruct. So do not, of course, start your motor. I know that goes without saying, but it's always been something I've always been fearful that I might do, and I never have, but you just don't want to do that. We have our filter securely on, snug but not crazy tight. Now we're going to always start your oil drain bolt by hand. Do not put that in with any kind of a ratcheting device. Use your fingers because you don't want to cross thread it. And then you just, once you get this to the end, you want to just lightly snug it up to where it's kind of bottoms out. Not crazy tight. It's just once it stops turning, you're there, and that's there. Just kind of snug, hand tight, not reefing on that like you're torquing a lug nut. You don't want to strip where this goes into the oil pan. That's one of the main reasons, truthfully, I started changing my own oil is, I would get my machine back and change oil, and the filter was so tight I couldn't get it off. And one time, one of these was nearly stripped and cross-threaded, and then where my little access cover thing was put on, the bolts were kind of stripped, and I just thought, this isn't hard. I'm just going to do it myself. While I'm under here, I just take a rag and I wipe all these surfaces down so they're clean, so when I check my oil next time, if there's any new oil residue or anything, I know that it's from my last oil change. I'm going to leave the pan off, the access plate off, so that I can add oil to the top and then start the engine, let it run for 3 minutes as recommended on the oil filter. And that way I'll just double check for oil leaks before I put the access plate cover back on. So let's go ahead and add our oil in now. Before I fill with oil up here, obviously there's the engine fill plug there. There's a dipstick where you check your oil. I like to just take a little furniture polish on a towel and just wipe everything out. It just takes a moment. Might as well clean things up. Wipe your engine cover off, and yeah, just take a moment, wipe things down. Then it looks like, I don't know, somebody cares about the machine. So just take a moment, wipe things down. You don't have to wipe down, in nooks and crannies where you could, snag something and rip something loose, but just generally clean up your engine bay. So here I've wiped down the engine bay just lightly with a soft cloth and some lemon pledge. Squirted on here and sprayed on there, and it works great. Just wipe down any surfaces. Now it looks like it's a new car, and it's not. If you do that every time you change your oil, it actually does keep looking clean and new. I also take a moment to clean any debris out of my vent system that's external here. It just takes a moment. So you can see there's some leaves and things. I'll go ahead and get that out. There's no sense in leaving that in there to rot. Just pull it out while you're doing all this. Now it's just a matter of adding 4.8 quarts of oil. It says to use 0.16 weight oil. So here we are, 0.16 weight oil. Have your favorite funnel that's clean on the inside and out. You don't want to introduce any oil particles to your engine. This is why you're changing your oil, to keep it clean. And we're just going to add that oil in. And we're going to keep repeating this till we get 4.8 quarts in. And of course, after you fill with the 4.8 quarts of oil, replace the oil fill cap back. Now let's start the car, reset the oil minder light, check for leaks, and reinstall the bottom access panel and the skid plate. I have the car running now just so I can check for oil leaks, but you can see you're just going to go to your main menu here and use these arrow buttons to toggle across to where you get a little gear at the top, right there. And then you're just going to toggle down, again, using your arrows over here. Until my hood opens again, thank you. We're going to go down to where it says vehicle settings, but not on the car, just vehicle settings. Hold OK. Then it's going to say scheduled maintenance. Push that, reset data. Yes, reset complete. Okay, there you go. That resets your maintenance light. And then you can just back out of that menu and use the keys to go back to what you want to get back to. Just a quick look back under here. I don't see any oil leaks whatsoever. So we're going to just replace the little access panel plastic plate. I like to wipe this off before I reinstall, but that's not necessary. And we're going to hand tighten just lightly these bolts into that access panel plate. So when you're getting ready to put this access panel back on, see this little tab? That's going to help you out. That tab's going to fit up inside here like that, and it'll help hold that on so that when this goes on, you'll be able to have an easier time holding that on. Just fits right in there. So then it's just a matter of replacing your screws. So as you're putting these in, you just want to put these in snug, not tight. So a trick I like to use is to hold down on the ratchet here. My dad taught me this years ago, rather than at the very end where I could get a little leverage. So just grab up top here, and when it's snug, that's it. And then go around, check each one. Just holding up. Yep, that's about right there. That's about right there. And that's about right there. And you start these with your fingers so you don't cross thread them. They're coarse threads, but still. Okay, now our access panel's in place. We don't have any leaks. We're full of oil. Oil minders is reset. And we'll just check the oil level on the dipstick. So now it's just a matter of pulling the dipstick out, wiping the oil off, reinserting the dipstick, and pulling it back out and checking the level. So here you can see our oil level is just below the top mark, which would be our overfill mark, overfull. If we were down at the low end, we want to add oil, but you can see our oil level is just below that top mark on the dipstick, and now we'll just reinsert the dipstick. And of course, always dispose of oil appropriately by putting it into a milk jug container or however your local recycling authorities want it handled, and then dispose of it properly. Well, I hope this helps. There's no need to be intimidated to change oil on a Toyota RAV4. They're very easy to maintain, nice to work on, and just great cars in general. So we'll be doing some other maintenance items on this, like the engine air filter, the in-cabin microfilter for the HVAC system, or the air conditioning and venting system. So stay tuned for more RAV4 maintenance items. Thanks for watching. Have an awesome day. Hello, Throttle-On John here, doing an oil change on a 2019 Plus RAV4. You just need, I think, around 4.8 quarts of oil, so I have 5. I'm using the 0.16 that Toyota recommends. You could use your own brand of 0.16 if you prefer. I like to use synthetic. We have the oil filter here, a 90915 YZZ-N1. You can use a good quality oil filter, either a Toyota or Napa Gold filters are good. Have a Toyota crush washer. Need a 14 millimeter for the drain plug, and a 10 millimeter to remove the little skid plate door access for the drain plug and the oil filter. You need a ratchet. You can use an extension, not necessary. Have something to remove the oil filter. I like using the end cap filter removal tool. It's easy, but you could use one that will grab onto the sides just as easily. There's plenty of room in there. I like to use a Milwaukee ratchet to run some of these things out quicker, but not necessary. A hand ratchet works fine. And that's pretty much what we need, other than a oil drain pan. So let's go ahead and get started.